Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of Who Are the Fighters in Van Damme's martial arts epic The Quest. There's some really interesting guys in this one, including one of them who fought in the UFC and another one who actually trains top-level UFC fighters today, such as Colby Covington. So make sure to stay until the end to get all the amazing details on these 8 remaining fighters in Van Damme's The Quest. If you like this kind of content, by the way, and want to help support the channel, please smash that like button like Azdine Nouri, the guy from Turkey, did to these bricks.
Very good. But brick, not hit back.
Boy, talk about raining on his parade. But don't rain on mine. Make sure to hit that like button.
Mongolia against Greece.
The late Stefanos Miltsakakis, who passed away in 2019, played the Greek fighter. I previously talked about him in my Maximum Risk video, which I'll link in the description below. Make sure to check that out. He's a pretty accomplished wrestler, and at the age of 24 was selected for the Greek team at the 1984 Olympics, but a knee injury unfortunately sidelined him, forcing him to abandon his Olympic dreams. He did end up becoming a world champion in progression, also known as pankration, an ancient Greek sport combining wrestling and boxing. He also has 2 wins in Val Tudo World Champion events, both in 1999 as well as 2002. He's actually appeared in quite a few Van Damme movies, starting out in 1989's Cyborg, then as the guy driving the Jeep in Lionheart. His role in The Quest would come next, followed by the character Redface in Maximum Risk, and then finally as Stavros in 2002's Derailed. Interesting side note, he also played a character called Stavros the following year in 2003's Daredevil. Some other notable films he's appeared in were Best of the Best 2, where he fought Philip Ree, and Bloodsport 4, The Dark Kumite, where he fought against Daniel Bernhardt. Don't watch that one, by the way. Trust me. If you haven't seen it, do not watch Bloodsport 4.
Get to trust me.
Japan against Turkey.
Azdine Nouri played the Turkish fighter. During the 1970s, he won several karate tournaments. He was also a world champion in artistic kata in 1978. He held several records for breaking concrete during the 1990s. He began training in martial arts at the age of 12 and has over 40 years of experience. He specializes in karate, but is also trained in Aikido, Kung Fu, Ninjitsu, and Yoga. He met Jean-Claude Van Damme at a martial arts gala in 1991, which led to his part in The Quest. The Quest is the only film he's appeared in, and I'd venture to guess he probably just wasn't interested in pursuing other film work, as I'm sure he would have likely found several parts. As far as Van Damme's The Quest goes, I don't think any martial artist would turn down that opportunity to work with Van Damme, especially during the 90s, when he was at the peak of his career. That would have been such an amazing opportunity. Azdine Nouri has put on some pretty crazy martial arts demonstrations throughout the years. Lying on katana blades here, for example, on his neck no less. He actually does quite a few demonstrations blindfolded as well, and may very well have started the Fruit Ninja craze as seen here. Azdine Nouri kind of reminds me of this guy in the neighborhood when I was growing up on an army base. Now, he had 2 kids of his own, and he would let other kids come to his house and give us like these throwing knives, and we'd all throw them on the side of his shed. He was pretty much the neighborhood ninja, and he would do these demonstrations. I actually can't remember if he was blindfolded or not, but what he would do is he would take an apple and put it on a kid's head, or have the kid lay down and put it on his stomach, and he would slice it in half after getting all prepared. I mean, he would literally just cut it right in half, like perfectly, flawlessly. Never hurt anyone. I never volunteered, but that was interesting. I don't think nowadays that can happen. Parents seem way overly protective, but the 80s were an interesting time.
Brazil.
Maestro Cesar Carneiro played the fighter from Brazil. Born in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, he's considered by many to be a legend in the world of capoeira and was instrumental in popularizing the art in the United States. And to think, all this time we likely gave credit to Mark Dacascos in Only the Strong. Speaking of which, he did make an appearance in that film. He began his training in capoeira at age 6 years old and became a master at 18, which is the time he joined the Oba Oba, Brazil's largest show business organization in the world. From there, he would make his way to Thailand and study the art of Muay Thai kickboxing, and it is there where he fell in love with the art. While there, he would also film the movie The Quest with Jean-Claude Van Damme. He had a brief stint working on films in the mid-90s, appearing in 4 total. Only the Strong with Mark Dacascos, as I mentioned, Mortal Contact, which sounds like a documentary for 2020, The Quest, and then Shoot Fighter Part 2. Today, Maestro Cesar is one of the world's most sought-after MMA striking coaches and has been training fighters over the last 5 years. Having taught and trained all over the world, his unique blend of capoeira, Muay Thai, and boxing has been refined into a striking system that emphasizes superior balance and footwork, evasive movement, dominating clinch work, and devastating strikes. His gym, MMA Masters, where he is head coach, has credited him as being the one who started the kick to the calf move years ago. That's now become a popular weapon among many fighters. That's a good kick. I've always remembered Benson Henderson using it a lot when he was in the UFC. One of the popular UFC fighters that Cesar recently trained was Colby Covington. A prominent narrative going into Colby's last fight against Tyron Woodley on September 19, 2020 was a change that Colby made in terms of his fight camp. Colby had moved out from American Top Team in Coconut Creek, Florida, to MMA Masters, also in Florida. Colby's dominant performance over Tyron Woodley, by the way, definitely looks good for MMA Masters team, as Colby practically retired the ex-champ on a dominant performance. That's definitely a feather in Cesar Carneiro's cap.
Wang Prahan of Siam.
I am Fang.
Jin Sung played Fang, the Siamese fighter. Born and raised in Taiwan, as a child he was infatuated with Bruce Lee after sneaking into the theater to watch Bruce Lee's The Big Boss. He's been a student of Kung Fu ever since. He's truly a product of East meets West, as he'd migrate to Florida with his mother, where he'd spent his teen years in high school, sharing his love of Bruce Lee and Kung Fu with like-minded students. He also excelled in several sports, which led to a college football scholarship. Jung Sung would parlay his physical abilities and martial arts skills to his work as an actor. He also practices Thai kickboxing, which was perfect for his role in The Quest, as he would be the premier fighter from the Muay Island in that film. He does quite a bit of stunt work in addition to regular acting work and voice work. Fun trivia, by the way. He was in the sequels to Van Damme movies that Van Damme was not in. For example, Van Damme appeared in the first No Retreat, No Surrender, while Jin Sung appeared in No Retreat, No Surrender 3. Van Damme, of course, was in Time Cop, while Jin Sung appears in Time Cop, The Berlin Decision with Jason Scott Lee. He's still working in film today, and most recently has appeared in the live-action Disney Mulan film.
Soviet Union against Spain.
Peter Malota played the fighter from Spain. Born in Albania, he would move to Detroit, Michigan, and then later Los Angeles, California to pursue work in film. In The Quest, his character is of course from Spain, but if you look closely you can see the Albanian flag on his belt, an homage to his home country. He actually wanted his character to be from and represent Albania, however the producers felt that not enough of the audience would be familiar with that country and instead preferred to keep it as Spain, a country a lot more people would recognize. He has over 40 years of Taekwondo and Hapkido experience and is a 6th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. You guys would likely recognize him as a guy with the spurs on his boots in Double Impact, where he would end up fighting Alex. Double Impact was Van Damme's first major Hollywood studio movie, and Peter was a martial arts fight choreographer on that film and would continue a successful partnership with Van Damme, taking responsibility for handling the martial arts fight coordinating, action directing, and training of Van Damme on Universal Soldier, Nowhere to Run, The Quest, Desert Heat, Universal Soldier The Return, Replicant, and The Order. As far as acting goes, he primarily appeared in smaller roles within several of Van Damme films, but he primarily works as a stunt coordinator. More recently, he has moved into directing, including the 2017 Van Damme film Kill 'Em All, and he currently has another film in pre-production called The Hunted Man, which he's set to direct. Koji Kitao played the Japanese sumo fighter, and in real life was a sumo wrestler at one point. He's a really big guy, standing 6'7" and weighing 390 pounds. Why this guy from Okinawa thought he could take him down tells me the Okinawa guy really doesn't have a good understanding of physics. Koji Kitao made his professional debut in sumo at the age of 15 and eventually became the sumo's 60th yokozuna, which is the highest rank in sumo, at age 22. He was actually the only yokozuna in history not to win a top division tournament championship. In 1942, there was one other sumo wrestler who had also been promoted to yokozuna prior to having won any tournament championships. That was Terakuni, though he did end up winning 2 top division tournament titles after the promotion. The decision to promote Kitao to yokozuna ended up backfiring and proved to be a great embarrassment to the sumo establishment. Not only was his performance during tournaments considered disappointing, he actually got in a heated argument with the stable boss, Tatsunami, and stormed out, allegedly striking Tatsunami's wife on the way out and breaking her arm. The stable master handed in Kitao's retirement papers without consulting him, and the elders of the Sumo Association voted to expel Kitao. He became the first yokozuna ever to be expelled from sumo this way. Upon being dismissed by the Sumo Association, Kitao was linked with a move to America's NFL, the National Football League, but instead turned to professional wrestling. There he'd wrestle in various promotions from 1989 up until the late 90s, some of which included the American Wrestling Association, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Super World of Sports. He'd also earn a black belt in karate during the 90s and have a brief career in mixed martial arts from 1996 to 1997. His first bout was for the Brazilian company Universal Valtudo Fighting, where he faced Pedro Otavio. At the onset of the fight, Kitao immediately rushed Pedro to the corner and took him down, gaining dominant position over him thanks to his much larger size. The ex-sumo champion spent most of the bout smothering Otavio from the half-guard position, but the Brazilian fighter eventually managed to get free and gain Kitao's back, from where he threw 3 vicious elbow strikes to the back of his head and neck. Kitao tapped out, but Otavio still threw 4 more elbows before the referee's intervention. To add insult to injury, Otavio also stepped on the back of Kitao's head after the stoppage. His second MMA fight would take place at UFC 9 Motor City Madness in 1996 against Mark Hall. Early on in the fight, Kitao took Hall to the ground and seemed to be in a dominant position. However, the much smaller Hall ended up hitting Kitao flush in the nose with a right punch, which resulted in a broken nose for Kitao. You can see a young John McCarthy stop the fight here. Kitao, now 0-2 in MMA, would see his final fight in Pride, where he faced future WWE wrestler Nathan Jones. Jones would actually be the larger fighter in height, standing 6'9 versus Kitao's 6'7, but not in weight, weighing 345 versus Kitao's 390. Kitao would once again get the takedown and this time finally secure a victory with an Americana. He finished his MMA career with 1 win, 2 losses. In 2003, he sensationally returned to the world of sumo after being offered a job as a coach at his former training stable. His return was possible thanks to the retirement of Kitao's old stable master, Hagoroyama, who had been accused of illegally pocketing money from the stable fundings. Kitao was keen to continue his work in sumo, but was prevented from doing so by ill health. In 2013, Kitao was diagnosed with kidney disease and would sadly pass away 6 years later on February 10, 2019 from chronic renal failure at the age of 55.
United States against China!
Peter Wong played the Chinese fighter. He's trained in Wushu, Sanchu, and Wing Chun.
Now he's got a style like a monkey.
He hasn't done a whole lot of film work and last appeared in the 2003 Chow Yun-fat movie Bulletproof Monk. Peter Wong is affiliated with the Sunny Tang Martial Arts Center, martial arts club in Toronto, Canada. Members of the club include Alan Tang and Nathan Lam, who are also in Bulletproof Monk. Sunny Tang, by the way, has tutelage under Ip Man, and in 1993, Sunny founded Wushu Canada. Peter Wong has also done some stunt work up until 2010, including the 2006 Bruce Willis film 16 Blocks. Outside of that, I just couldn't really find much more on him, despite him having one of the larger fight roles in The Quest, making it to the semifinals against Van Damme's character. If any of you guys know more about him, please comment below.
Mongolia against United States!
Abdel Qissi played the role of Khan, the Mongolian fighter. He lives by an interesting philosophy. I call it the, if I can't have this table, no one can. Everyone kind of loses out, and he's got to sit on the floor and eat at that point. But this would be the second Van Damme movie where he played the main villain Van Damme would have to defeat by the end of the film. The first being Lionheart, where he played cat-loving, mutton-chop-sporting Attila. Abdel Qissi was born in Morocco and moved to Brussels, Belgium at a young age. He is Michel Qissi's older brother. Michel Qissi, by the way, is most known as playing Tong Po in the film Kickboxer, and you could see him in a lot of the older Van Damme films, such as Bloodsport and Lionheart as well. Van Damme grew up with them in his native Brussels, Belgium. Abdel trained in boxing at a sports center where he met Van Damme. His large, imposing stature, standing 6'2" with a stocky build, visually made him a formidable opponent against Van Damme. Aside from The Quest and Lionheart, he'd face Van Damme once more in 2001's The Order, which, like Lionheart, was directed by Sheldon Lettich. Abdel Qissi did box professionally in the early 1980s. His career consisted of 8 fights, 5 of them wins, 2 via knockout, 1 draw, and 2 losses. So that covers the remaining fighters from Jean-Claude Van Damme's martial arts epic The Quest. Let me know in the comments below who your favorite fighter was from that movie.